I had just finished another brutal shift at the diner, and I was exhausted. All I could think about was getting home, pouring myself a drink, and unwinding. My friends had warned me earlier in the day not to take the back roads, especially at night. They said it was too dangerous, but come on. I'd driven those roads 100 times, and nothing ever happened. Besides, danger had always been a distant thing for me, something that happened to other people. As I drove along that dark, isolated road, the rain started coming down harder, my windshield wipers struggling to keep up. It was one of those nights where the world feels completely empty, just you and the road ahead. I guess that's why I didn't expect to see someone out there. I was just rounding a bend when I saw a man standing by the side of the road, waving his arms like a madman. My first thought was to keep driving. Everything inside me was screaming to just go, but something made me slow down. Maybe it was the rain, or maybe it was that stupid voice in my head telling me not to be a jerk. So, against my better judgment, I pulled over. The guy was soaked to the bone, but he had this weird smile plastered on his face, like he wasn't even bothered by the rain. There was something off about him, but I didn't think much of it at the time. "Need a ride?" I asked, rolling down the window just a crack. He didn't say anything at first, just smiled wider and nodded before opening the door and sliding into the passenger seat. "Thanks, man, you're a real lifesaver," he said, his voice raspy but overly friendly. I shrugged, not really wanting to make small talk. "Where you headed?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but something about the whole situation made my skin crawl. "Just up the road," he replied, still smiling. "Not far." We drove in silence for a while, the rain pounding harder on the roof of the car. I tried not to look at him, but every now and then I'd glance over, and there he was, still smiling that strange, unsettling smile. It didn't quite reach his eyes, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd made a big mistake. I spotted a gas station up ahead and figured I might as well fill out. "Need anything from inside?" I asked, hoping the guy would just leave and be done with it. "No, thanks," he said, his smile faltering for a split second before returning. I got out, relieved to be away from him, if only for a minute. As I filled the tank, I kept glancing back at the car, half expecting him to just vanish. Maybe I was hoping he would. But when I returned, he was gone. I let out a sigh of relief. Maybe this wasn't so weird after all. But then I heard a rustling from the back seat. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest as I slowly glanced at the rearview mirror. There he was, crouched in the back seat, staring at me with those same wide eyes and that twisted smile. My mouth went dry. Jesus, what the... Before I could finish, he sat up, moving slow and deliberate, like he had all the time in the world. He leaned forward, his face inches from mine, and whispered, "You should have kept driving." I panicked, slamming on the brakes and fumbling for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. I was trapped, and that sick feeling in my stomach told me I wasn't getting out of this one. The man reached out and gripped my shoulder, his hand cold and clammy. His smile grew wider as he leaned in closer, his breath hot and sour on my neck. "You've always been so careless," he whispered, his voice low and menacing. "Tonight, it catches up with you." My mind was racing, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. I tried to fight him off, but my strength was fading. All the stupid, reckless choices I'd made flashed through my mind every time I'd gotten lucky, every time I'd walked away unscathed. But this time there was no escape. I'd driven right into my own demise. In a last-ditch effort, I flung myself against the door, praying it would open. But it didn't. He was on me now, pulling me back into the darkness of the car, his laughter echoing in my ears. I could hear the rain outside, but it felt so far away, drowned out by the sound of my own ragged breathing and his sinister chuckles. I don't know what happened after that. The next thing I remember, I was gone. My car was found the next morning, abandoned on the side of the road, the door slightly ajar. There was no trace of me, just my phone, left behind on the passenger seat. I don't know where I am now, but I'm still here, watching, waiting. I guess this is what happens when you're too careless, too confident that nothing bad will ever happen to you. Sometimes it does, and when it does,